In an era of unprecedented aviation safety, two catastrophic crashes of a brand new aircraft within 5 months sent shockwaves across the globe. The Boeing 737 MAX, designed as a modern marvel, instead became synonymous with tragedy. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 plunged into the Java Sea. Just over 4 months later, on March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 met a similar fate. These incidents, initially perplexing, would ultimately expose a complex web of engineering choices, regulatory pressures, and systemic failures that challenged the very foundation of trust in commercial aviation. The world demanded answers. What truly happened to Boeing's newest jet? For decades, Boeing stood as a titan of aerospace engineering, its aircraft forming the backbone of global air travel. The 737 series, first introduced in the late 1960s, was their most successful airliner, with thousands delivered worldwide. It was renowned for its reliability and versatility. However, by the early 21st century, the aviation landscape was changing rapidly. Competitors, particularly Airbus with its fuel-efficient A320neo, began to challenge Boeing's market dominance, particularly in the single-aisle aircraft segment. The pressure mounted for Boeing to innovate, to maintain its competitive edge, and to deliver a new iteration of its workhorse 737 that could rival the efficiency of its European counterpart. Boeing's response to the A320neo was the 737 MAX. The company opted for an evolution rather than a complete redesign, a strategy aimed at speed and cost efficiency. The objective was clear: develop a highly fuel-efficient aircraft quickly, largely by updating the existing 737 airframe. This decision, driven by intense market competition, presented significant engineering challenges. The core issue was integrating larger, more fuel-efficient engines onto an airframe originally designed for smaller, less powerful ones. This necessitated a careful balance between leveraging existing design knowledge and introducing crucial modifications to ensure the aircraft's aerodynamic stability and performance. To accommodate the new, larger CFM LEAP 1B engines, Boeing's engineers had to mount them further forward and slightly higher on the wing compared to previous 737 models. While beneficial for fuel economy, this placement introduced an unexpected aerodynamic characteristic: at certain angles of attack, particularly during high-speed turns or if the nose was pitched up too aggressively, the aircraft had a tendency to pitch the nose even higher. This inherent instability was unacceptable for a commercial airliner and required a software solution to ensure safe flight operations. Addressing this subtle aerodynamic change became paramount for the aircraft's certification and safe deployment. To counteract the MAX's tendency to pitch up, Boeing developed a new automated flight control feature known as the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS. This system was designed to automatically push the aircraft's nose down if it detected a high angle of attack, thereby preventing a potential stall and mimicking the handling characteristics of earlier 737 models. According to Boeing, MCAS was intended to operate subtly and only in extreme flight conditions, making it a background system that pilots wouldn't normally encounter. This design philosophy significantly influenced how the system was documented and communicated to airlines and pilots during the aircraft's rollout. A critical design aspect of MCAS was its reliance on a single angle of attack (AOA) sensor to determine if the aircraft was nearing a stall. If this sensor provided erroneous data, MCAS would activate repeatedly, driving the aircraft's nose down. Furthermore, the system was designed to reset after each activation, meaning if the pilot corrected the nose-down input, MCAS would reactivate moments later if the faulty AOA data persisted. Crucially, Boeing did not explicitly detail MCAS in the flight manuals or pilot training materials, arguing it would only activate in rare, specific conditions and was part of the existing flight envelope protection. This decision would later be heavily scrutinized by accident investigators. The certification of the 737 MAX was overseen by the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. Reports from various sources, including congressional investigations, later revealed significant pressure on both Boeing and the FAA to expedite the certification process. The FAA had delegated a substantial amount of certification work to Boeing itself, a practice known as Organizational Designation Authorization, ODA. While ODA is common, concerns arose regarding the extent of delegation and the oversight of critical systems like MCAS. Investigators would later question if the speed of development and the competitive environment compromised the thoroughness of the safety reviews, particularly for new, complex software features. On October 29, 2018, just 2 months after its delivery, Lion Air Flight 610, a Boeing 737 MAX, crashed into the Java Sea shortly after takeoff from Jakarta. All 189 passengers and crew perished. Preliminary investigations by the Indonesian National Transportation Safety Committee, NTSC, quickly pointed to issues with the aircraft's flight control system. Flight data recorders revealed that the pilots struggled to maintain control, with the aircraft's nose repeatedly pitching down. This unexplained behavior bore striking similarities to warnings pilots had received about an erroneous angle of attack sensor on a previous flight of the same aircraft, raising immediate red flags about the integrity of the flight systems. Investigators analyzing the flight data recorder from Lion Air Flight 610 quickly identified the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, as a central factor. The data showed repeated, uncommanded nose-down inputs from MCAS, triggered by a faulty angle of attack sensor. Despite the pilot's strenuous efforts to counteract these inputs, the system persistently pushed the aircraft's nose down, making recovery impossible. This revelation highlighted a critical safety vulnerability. A single point of failure in a system designed to enhance safety instead became a catastrophic flaw. The preliminary report from the NTSC clearly outlined the sequence of events, setting the stage for deeper scrutiny of the MAX design. Following the Lion Air crash, Boeing issued an operations manual bulletin for 737 MAX operators. This bulletin, released in November 2018, described the potential for erroneous angle of attack sensor input to cause uncommanded nose-down trim and provided existing cockpit procedures for pilots to follow in such an event. However, this guidance did not explicitly name or explain MCAS, nor did it fully convey the system's persistent nature when triggered by faulty data. Many in the aviation community, including pilots and airlines, expressed concerns that Boeing's communication and the FAA's subsequent airworthiness directive did not adequately prepare pilots for the unique behavior of the MCAS system. Despite the initial bulletin, profound safety concerns persisted within the aviation community. Pilots reported a general lack of awareness about MCAS, highlighting that it was not covered in their simulator training or specific differences courses for the 737 MAX. This meant that when faced with unexpected automated nose-down inputs, they lacked the specific knowledge and training to effectively counteract the new system's behavior. International aviation experts and pilot unions began to voice alarms, suggesting that the Lion Air incident was not an isolated event and that a deeper systemic issue might be at play, demanding a more comprehensive review of the aircraft's design and operational procedures. Tragically, just 5 months after the Lion Air disaster, the worst fears of the aviation world materialized. On March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, also a Boeing 737 MAX, crashed shortly after takeoff from Addis Ababa, killing all 157 people on board. The similarities to the Lion Air accident were chillingly immediate and unmistakable. Eyewitnesses reported a similar erratic flight path, and flight data soon confirmed that the crew had been battling an automated system repeatedly pushing the aircraft's nose down, consistent with an activated MCAS triggered by erroneous angle of attack data. The second crash solidified suspicions that the problem was not human error or maintenance, but a fundamental design flaw. The second crash within such a short timeframe, combined with the clear similarities, left no room for doubt. Countries and airlines around the world, one by one, began to ground their Boeing 737 MAX fleets. China was the first major nation to act, quickly followed by the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, and numerous other civil aviation authorities. The FAA, initially hesitant, eventually ordered the grounding of all 737 MAX aircraft in U.S. airspace on March 13, 2019, making it a truly global ban. This unprecedented move reflected the severe loss of confidence in the aircraft's safety and the urgency of addressing the underlying issues before any more lives were lost. Detailed investigations into both crashes, conducted by national and international bodies, ultimately pinpointed several critical design flaws. A major finding was the MCAS system's reliance on a single angle of attack sensor, without adequate redundancy. If this sensor failed, MCAS could repeatedly command nose-down inputs. Furthermore, the system's power to move the horizontal stabilizer, without clear indication to the pilots or easy means of overriding it under stress, was deemed excessive. These findings concluded that the MCAS system, as designed and implemented, was fundamentally flawed and posed an unacceptable risk to flight safety. Beyond design, investigations also exposed significant deficiencies in regulatory oversight. Multiple reports, including a comprehensive one by the U.S. House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, detailed how the FAA's certification process for the 737 MAX was compromised. The extensive delegation of safety assessments to Boeing employees, combined with internal pressure to meet deadlines, allowed critical design changes, including MCAS, to be inadequately reviewed. This led to a lack of awareness within the FAA itself regarding the full scope and potential hazards of MCAS, ultimately failing in its primary role of ensuring public safety. A crucial contributing factor identified was the critical gap in pilot training. Pilots were not adequately informed about the existence or operational characteristics of MCAS. The system's behavior, particularly its potential for repeated, uncommanded nose-down inputs, was not part of standard simulator training or aircraft manuals. This meant that when facing an MCAS malfunction, pilots lacked the necessary understanding and muscle memory to effectively respond. The accidents underscored the need for comprehensive training that covers all new systems, especially those that can significantly alter flight control, ensuring crews are prepared for unexpected automation behavior. Following the global grounding, Boeing embarked on a monumental task to fix the 737 MAX. The primary focus was a comprehensive software update for MCAS. This update now relies on data from both angle of attack sensors and will only activate once, preventing repeated nose-down inputs. Additionally, a new mechanism ensures that MCAS will never command nose-down inputs greater than what pilots can easily counteract using the control column. Alongside the software changes, Boeing revised all pilot training materials, ensuring clear documentation and mandatory simulator training on MCAS for all 737 MAX pilots. This extensive overhaul was necessary to regain the trust of regulators and the flying public. After nearly 2 years of grounding, extensive software updates, and rigorous recertification processes by global aviation authorities, the Boeing 737 MAX began its return to service in late 2020. This phased reintroduction was met with cautious optimism and continued scrutiny. While regulators affirmed the aircraft's safety post-modifications, public confidence remained a key challenge. The incidents have fundamentally reshaped how new aircraft are designed, certified, and how pilots are trained globally. For Boeing, it has been a stark lesson in accountability, reminding the industry that safety must always be the paramount consideration, overriding competitive pressures and production deadlines. The tragic crashes of the Boeing 737 MAX serve as a sobering reminder of the complex interplay between engineering, regulation, and human factors in aviation safety. They underscored the critical importance of transparent design processes, robust independent oversight, and comprehensive pilot training for all flight-critical systems. The incidents led to significant reforms within both Boeing and the FAA, prompting a re-evaluation of certification procedures and corporate safety culture. While the 737 MAX now flies again, its story is a permanent fixture in aviation history, a powerful lesson that continuous vigilance and an unwavering commitment to safety are the only acceptable standards in the skies.